Q&A session of Rx-360. I'm Guy Vilax. I'm on the board of Rx-360, and within the membership of Rx-360, I come under the category of suppliers, because typically the company I work for, Hovion, is a supplier to the supply chain, and then we have other members that are pharmaceutical manufacturers, so there are different classes of membership. The goal today is to give you a chance to get to know Rx-360 better and to ask questions and to see what are the benefits to the supply chain that Rx-360 can offer. Before I introduce the panel, I'd like to tell you a few things about Rx-360. It's an industry group like no other. I've never been in a group like this. We don't lobby, we don't ask for things, we don't pressure people, we don't work like a closed-door club that doesn't like others to come in. We're the exact opposite. As an industry grouping, we welcome everybody that's in the supply chain, that shares the values of being constructive and wanting a safe and secure supply chain. We don't ask things from anybody. On the contrary, we develop know-how and we offer it to the public domain. We don't lobby, but in fact, we get the regulators telephoning to us and asking for our opinion, for input, to share ideas. So I think that as an example of what industry groupings are likely to be in the 21st century, I think we're a superb example. To introduce the panel members, starting from the right-hand side of the table, we have Stefan Winkart from Teva. He's head of procurement in Europe. Next to him is Ryan Johnson from Pfizer, and he's the director of supply chain security within Pfizer. Then you have Kim Cauchi from Mylan, Vice President, Global Sourcing. Next to him, from Abbott, is Meg Raplin, who's the VP Purchasing for the division of what will become AbbVie. Am I right?
You've given me a promotion, thank you. Director.
Now that I've been then Bill Dubay from Ampac Fine Chemicals, just on my right, Vice President of Technology, and Ampac, like Hovion, inside Rx-360, we consider the suppliers. The other people on the panel are the pharmaceutical manufacturers. On my left is Lynn Byers, who's the chair of Rx-360. Lynn is from GlaxoSmithKline. She's Vice President and Head of the Quality Shared Services. And finally, at the end of the table is Martin van Trieste, who's from Amgen. He's Senior Vice President of Quality, and he's the founder of Rx-360, together with others, I'm sure. But he kind of first chair that made all this happen. We have a few prepared questions to get this going, but if at any time you have something specific or something you'd like to clarify, don't hesitate to put up your hand. So the first question that I thought was a good one to ask Lynn was, Rx-360 has 23 pharma companies that are members and 31 suppliers, 24 observers. And this includes 13 industry associations from both sides of the Atlantic that pretty much cover every piece of the space of the supply chain. FDA is a regular observer, and regulators call you often to get industry's views. How does this all work, Rx-360? How many volunteers get involved? What's the scope, the variety, the dimension of what you do?
Thanks, Guy. Well, we were just counting up this week how many volunteers get involved, and I mean, it's tremendous. There are about over 300 people who are actively involved in various working groups, and really pleased to see quite a few people here in the room. So I'll give a very quick overview. We are split into 3 different areas of activity. First area of activity is about auditing. So we have an audit operations committee who work on the shared and joint programs. Hello? That's right. The shared and joint audit programs that we run. And if you're interested, we can answer any questions people may have. There's also some handouts at the side to talk about the audit program. And the idea there is that we actually will work together to perform audits of suppliers and then share the output of those audits. The second leg, if you like, is around the supply chain security, which is looking at the criminal activities that take place within the supply base and working with other people, with other experts from industry to actually bring together white papers and to educate both regulators and ourselves. And Brian Johnson at the far end is very much our expert on this. And then the third area is an area of external regulatory affairs, and this is, and Martin's very much the expert here, this is very much working on disseminating information to do with what's happening in the regulatory world, and any information that we happen to pick up from legitimate, verifiable sources. There's a lot of information out there, particularly with the internet today, and you don't quite know whether it's valid or not. We're very careful just to issue information when we've been able to verify its authenticity from several groups. So we're set up in sort of committees, we have lots of working groups, and another key resource for people is our website. It's a very active website. It's Rx-360, rx-360.org. It has lots of information that's freely available to many people. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. A question for Kim at Milan. Rx-360 is building a library of audit reports. Now, these audit reports, and the aim is obviously to avoid this endless repetition that we are all subjected to. You know, audits are terribly disruptive in an organization, in a plant, and they're incredibly repetitive. It's always the same thing, and then you always have a CAPA, so it's very costly. So the plan here is to reduce the frequency of audits, but get a very good set of auditors to do a good report. And that's what Rx-360 will make available at a very reduced cost. But this audit report does not have a conclusion. It has facts and reports data, and it's up to each individual company to evaluate that data and take a view. So it helps procurement get data in quickly at a low cost to take the right decisions. So Kim, tell us from the point of view of Milan, what's in it for you?
Buenos tardes, good afternoon, everyone. From our perspective, you'll notice over on the tables there's a sheet saying potential savings. And this is savings for the company, probably for your quality audit team, on how much money they may save through this Rx-360 shared audit program. But when it comes from a purchasing perspective, I mean, that's important to us, but also, procurement people are always concerned about cost of goods sold. as you know, price is very important. There are other aspects of sourcing that are important as well, but we're all tasked for financial goals. And adding cost to our suppliers is not helping us, it's not helping them. So there's the tangible savings, to your audit teams and to your, your quality groups. But, if you're saving money with your, if your supplier is saving money at their cost, that's something that, gives you more negotiating room, later on. And so we see that as a great benefit, that can be passed on because, we're all about adding value. And if there's no value being added by getting 60 auditors for the same company for sometimes even the same item, then that's a good thing.
Thank you. I suppose pretty much the same question.
I would like to add one other thing, because you touched on it, but I want to make sure that came off very clear. Also, procurement people are interested in speeding up approvals. I mean, in the U.S., we're working, PDUFA is being implemented right now, which hopefully gives us, a faster FDA approval time. But also, you may be working on an ultimate source approval that an audit is one of the key steps. And if your audit department, might have a list, 6 months long that might be holding up one of your alternate source programs, if they can go to this system and have one already baked in, then that's going to speed up your approval. Or also, if your supplier is in a country that your auditors can't get to quickly, there's a travel ban that they're not allowed to go to there, or their travel budget's been cut, or something like that. Again, working through this system, that's going to help you get that source approved quicker. Sorry.
Thank you, Kim. One of the things we've noticed is the brand of Rx-360 is very strong in quality circles. We still have some ways to go in terms of the branding being there on the business side of the purchasing. And I'd ask Martin, what do you say to those suppliers that appear unwilling to schedule an Rx-360 audit?
Yeah, so a couple of things. As we said before, it's definitely a more efficient and effective way of getting audits done. Once it's up and running, we have hundreds of audits in the system, is a much more efficient system. But even more important than that, one of the things that we will use the system for at Amgen is almost a pre-screen of the supplier. So procurement folks will come to us and say, hey, we're looking at maybe an alternate supplier to XYZ. We'll go into the database and see if someone else has audited them. Let's see if they've passed the audit. And then we can tell our R&D colleagues, go ahead and start the work. It looks like we're going to be okay. And we're not delaying the start of a program because at Amgen, we don't like to invest into suppliers until we know they're going to be a viable supplier for us. So we wait, and here is a point that we can eliminate that waiting period. The other thing that adds tremendous value to us as a company, we're a company that's based on innovation. We have to innovate or we die as a company. We're moving our quality system to look more like Toyota Motor Company, right? So where we don't want to do a lot of supplier audits. We want to manage supplier relationships and build deep technical understanding of the supplier's product and how they manufacture that product, and to get deep technical understanding how we're going to use their product. And to make sure that we have the right space in our organization to do that, we leverage Rx-360. So we don't do the audits anymore. We have someone like Rx-360 do it. And then we retrained and retooled our supplier quality group to go out and do that technical learning and that technical exchange with our product development folks. So from that perspective, it's really allowing us to change our quality system so it can truly be more quality by design all the way back to the supplier.
Thank you. But don't think that joining Rx-360 is just marketing. No way. You have to do your share of the work. We like people that are committed and passionate about doing the right thing. So, right? Work at least, yes. A question for Stefan. A few years ago, I remember talking, like almost probably 15 years ago, in Merck Generics, that I think later was bought by someone else, they were doing 300 audits a year. And I sound, and wow, this was a big number. We'll hear what these numbers are now, but Teva is substantially bigger than what Merck Generics was then. How do you do it? And how is Rx-360 going to help? What do you think we can do to help out in the, supply qualification challenges you have?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. This is a challenge, first of all, to be confirmed. We do not have 300 audits a year. I can tell you, we have a few more. Don't nail me down to that number because it's not even easy to get such a number internally. But I can tell you that at least we do 600 a year. And I'm sure, because I know some of them which were not on that list, I found already. So 600 plus is the minimum we do a year. Now you can imagine, we spoke about the speed of qualification of a supplier just as one topic. When you rely on the speed of such process, and suddenly you realize that the essential audit which you waited for quite long has not been taking place, you like it. So definitely we want to make sure that we have a stable audit plan. We do all the audits which are in the plan. We have the flexibility to do even the ones which come up ad hoc within the year. And that means it's about flexibility, which Rx can deliver. It's about resources, which we never have enough of. So Rx can be and is a substantial partner for us in do more. Yeah.
One group of companies that I have not yet seen joining Rx-360 is the small and medium-sized generic companies. And you do have just about in every country generic companies that only do one country, just Portugal, just Italy, just Austria. These companies, in my mind, would be the ones that would most benefit from Rx-360 audits, because I don't think they can afford a complete audit program for everything they do, because their markets are so small. What do you think?
I think we have to see it as a network, and we have to see it as a network of the bigger companies, but for sure also the smaller companies. And there is a huge benefit for the smaller ones, I would agree. At the same time, for the mid-size, for the big-size companies, I would not even start to differ. I would welcome everybody, because the bigger the network, the faster the outcome and the success for everybody.
I'd like to add to that, we were the ones who purchased Merck Generics, and we have many, many hundreds of audits as well. And before coming here, I surveyed our quality audit head on the situation, kind of asked him that question, and he thought, there's incredible value for a large company, the way that Stefan and I and others are mentioning, but he thought for especially a small company, or medium-sized as well, it could be an integrated part of our audit team, but it could be, the majority of a small audit program would be extremely valuable to them. He couldn't imagine that they weren't going to, take full advantage of a program like this.
Thank you. If I could have a question for Lynn. In Rx-360 and the board, we talk and we mention the size of our problem. So there's probably 3, 4, or 5 or 6 companies in Rx-360 that every year audit between 1,000 and 2,000 vendors. This is a large program. So, GSK, how many of these will you expect to convert to Rx-360 when we're cruising?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we're one of those companies that do between 1,000 and 2,000 a year. And what I hope to see through Rx-360 is it is becoming more difficult to obtain access, and the accesses may be shorter and shorter, or group audits, and we cannot sustain that. We're not getting a good quality product from our own people going out to audit. I'd rather that the suppliers spent time improving their systems, not just telling us about them. So, to be quite honest, we won't outsource something that's a custom manufacture for us. So if someone's using our intellectual property, or it's very specialist, then we would want to go and do it ourselves. I think the vast majority of our standard excipients, our standard packaging materials, and we buy an awful lot of fairly routine APIs. I don't see any reason why that can't be outsourced, but we need to, as you say, get it working. I don't think I should quote a particular percentage, but we are fully supportive of this and bringing this into our own internal quality management system such that we can rely on it, we can be inspected against it, and we trust in the product that Rx-360 give to each company, and then it's our responsibility to take that product, i.e. the audit report, and put it into our own quality management system. So similar to Martin, I would really like our quality professionals to be doing some more proactive work rather than just going on yet another audit when we do well in excess of 1,000 a year. It's a huge time constraint for us.
Thank you, Lynn. Now, from the supplier side, if I could ask Bill, we had another supplier, SAFC, that expects to be saving at least $200,000 in audits that they won't have to do to their own plants, and audits that they will avoid doing to their suppliers. What's your sense of savings and where these might come from?
So for AMPAC, we're a smaller firm, so we're not doing thousands of audits like these guys. So not only do we have to deal with audits from our customers, but we also have to audit our own suppliers. So being able to focus our resources more on more audits instead of divvying up our resources where certain priorities are. I think it comes back to something that Martin said as well as Kim. It's more about time and speed. There are certain projects that are delayed, or you have to wait to start because of they need a quality audit before things take place.
And you expect, so this ends up being like a cascade. The pharmaceutical manufacturer wants Rx-360 to audit the API suppliers and packaging, etc. And then we want our purchasing to make sure Rx-360 looks after some part of our suppliers. So do you see this cascading down to your suppliers?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this shared audit program will help us extremely, especially with our suppliers. So we're very forward-looking toward getting that program going.
Good. Thank you. Meg, as I said, the audits are disruptive. But they do something good, which is you get to kick the tires and you get to meet the people. If you get Rx-360 to do audits, are you going to make sure the travel budget is cut?
Well, I think from an Abbott, and I'll also speak from an AbbVie perspective because we will be separating at the end of the year, we look at it, the benefit is really in the joint audits, and then that's where we've gone in and we've been able to eliminate some. I don't think we're at the point where we think we would be eliminating travel budgets so significantly, because there's, as had been said by the other members, there's always more you can do. You want to put your resources to best use. You want to be able to be most effective with the time, the money, and the people you have. And if it's not focusing on that low risk, because you have to look at a risk-based perspective on this. If you're able to look at these joint audits and utilize those when you have a lower risk. It allows you to put the time and focus and the right amount of energy to have, as Lynn stated, a good output, a good product when your auditors are in at a supplier. And I'll make one other point because Bill made the comment about looking at his suppliers. I think that's potentially an area that could be tapped as well for companies like Abbott and AbbVie, where we're always looking at those next tiers into the supply chain. And so we can't, we ask the questions about whether companies have audit programs, what they do to manage their supply base. If they were coming back and perhaps referring as a supplier to the fact that they utilize the Rx-360, that there are audits from these companies, I think that goes a long way to answering some of the questions that we would have from a procurement standpoint about the security of their supply chain and what we're ultimately being asked to vouch for.
Thank you, May. So that takes us into the topic of supply chain security. And Brian Johnson leads the supply chain working group that we have at Rx-360. Maybe he could tell us a little bit about what does it do and what results we've had.
Okay, thank you very much. So if you go back to the beginning of Rx-360, and if you look at our current mission statement, we're about doing work for patient safety. And you'll see patient safety, and you'll see supply chain, enhancing the integrity of our supply chain in our mission statement. The audit programs that we've been focusing on are an essential element of our ability to do that. One of the things that really wasn't mentioned predominantly in the discussions that we've had on auditing. So the expectations in terms of audits are increasing. The reach that companies, the responsibility and the reach that companies need to have is increasing. So in addition to the financial and efficiency gains, it's going to allow our companies the ability to do, I think, what's going to be expected in 3-4 years from an auditing perspective. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But, getting back to patient safety, about a year ago we had a discussion about what the mission of the organization is and what more can we do as an organization focused at patient safety and supply chain security. And there's endless opportunities, obviously, and we put together a proposal to really supplement the mission of the organization and the good work that's being done in auditing to look at supply chain security from a criminal perspective. And so we pitched forming a supply chain security work group. The mission and objectives of this group is really looking at counterfeiting threats, product diversion threats, product theft, and intentional adulteration, the heparin, melamine type issues that we've seen around the world, and really looking at it from a criminal perspective and looking at what processes we as companies have in place to protect our supply chains. The board endorsed that work, and that was about a year ago. And we kicked off 4 work initiatives to start with, and we set up a team to work on what constitutes a comprehensive supply chain security program in any of our companies. What are the main components, systems, and processes? We kicked off another group looking at risk-based conveyance security. Everyone in the room moves materials, goods, and products. So how do you lay out a risk-based approach to securing product as you're moving it around the world? We kicked off another group looking at market monitoring. What do our companies do to monitor what's happening in the marketplace, and what kind of visibility do we have around the threats that we're faced with? So those are examples of some of the teams that we initially kicked off. All of those teams completed their work within about 5 months. We issued white papers, and essentially, the concept was, let's get the subject matter experts together who know cargo theft, for example, or who know product diversion. Let's share ideas. Let's put together best practices. We're not a standard-setting organization, but there's a lot of knowledge that we can share and that we can make available to the industry. Again, I look at this as we're sort of all in this battle together, fighting criminals. And this is an area where we're not competing, we're collaborating. So let's share ideas, let's share thoughts, let's steal each other's programs, and let's move the industry up. And that's essentially what we've been doing through these work groups. So we've just recently kicked off another 3 work groups, and I won't go into those, but I think the overall output from these groups and the number of subject matter experts that we've gotten engaged has been tremendous.
Yeah, one